Today's Transformers Prime offering is Chain of Command, and it's another Wheeljack and the Wreckers episode. But by now, Ultra Magnus, who is the leader of the Wreckers in the later years, I would imagine, of their time during the Old War, is the leader of the Wreckers again, per Optimus Prime's instruction. And Wheeljack doesn't like that. He liked the Wreckers back when they could just basically do whatever they wanted. In fact, he left after Ultra Magnus took command of the Wreckers back then, because, as he puts it, that's when the rust set in. It's revealed in this episode that's what happened. It's also revealed in this episode that Bulkhead left first to join with Optimus Prime, which creates a really interesting contrast between the two characters. Bulkhead left the Wreckers specifically to join with a great leader and join their team in a more structured environment, whereas Wheeljack left the Wreckers to run away from that more structured environment when it came to his team. And I'm going to get right out the gate right now. I am not really sure what this episode's going for. It could be going for, hey, Wheeljack can't accept that the Wreckers need leadership, and so he runs off again, because he does end up running off again by the end of the episode. But it also feels almost like we're supposed to feel bad for Wheeljack by the end. Like, how tragic is it that he doesn't have a place here anymore? When, like, he is clearly in the wrong. Again. Throughout this entire episode. Like, yeah, this guy is good at what he does, and he's effective, and he cares about people, but he's just, he is reckless to a fault. That is a thing that is an aspect of his character that the show keeps bringing us back around to. It's so frustrating, because I keep feeling like the show is trying to make us side with this guy, or make us feel like this is a two-sided issue, when it's just not. And we get to see in this one, after global warming frees the Predacon from the ice, pretty much literally, like that felt like that's what they were saying, right? Because the poles are getting warmer, the Predacon was able to free itself from the ice. It frees itself and it returns to the Decepticons, and Starscream's put in charge of it, which leads to some hilarious stuff later. After all that happens, though, we get to see the Wreckers on their mission for one of the Predacon fossils. And they end up in a Decepticon mine, of course. This show loves its Decepticon mines and caves and stuff. And Wheeljack, even though he's told to wait for cover, starts climbing down this cliffside to the mine on his own, which leads to him and Bulkhead getting spotted. And yeah, they take out the guards at the mouth of the cave before they can alert anybody else. But it's only through sheer grit and luck that they managed to pull that off. If he had just waited, like Magnus said, there wouldn't have been an issue. And then it's revealed that he brought Miko with him, on a whim of his own initiative, which, despite how competent she is for a human, is a reckless thing to decide to do on his own. Even though bringing her with them does turn out to be a good idea in the end, it was still the wrong choice to just decide that. But she's there, and luckily she's fine, and she doesn't retch on his what did she put it, floor mats? She didn't retch on his floor mats like she did Bulkhead's that one time. So that's good. That's character growth for her. But he was so incredibly reckless in this scene. And yet, even though everything that Magnus says to him is entirely rational about how he was wrong and what he should have done instead, he just blows it off. And I still, probably because Wheeljack's been a character longer than Magnus has, I still feel like the show is trying to frame it like Wheeljack is supposed to be at least partially still in the right. And he's just not. There wasn't any, like, time crunch or anything. Or, like, any pressing issue that made it necessary for him to impulsively run off and do this thing. He could have waited for cover, like Magnus said, and been fine. Everything would have turned out at least as well, if not better. And then, once they get into the cave, and the Predacon shows up there, it's been brought here by Starscream, he does something else extremely reckless. He throws a grenade trying to get it into the Predacon's mouth, and it misses and explodes and almost kills Magnus and Bulkhead. Because And Magnus even calls him out for this. You don't set off an explosive in an enclosed space like that. That's just stupid. He was stupid in this episode. And, like, yeah, he was also respectably competent in this episode as a fighter overall. But, like, I'm not siding with him here. I don't see his point of view. I'm glad he left at the end. Bulkhead's upset by it, and Miko's upset by it, but I'm glad he left by the end. Because if he can't follow orders and he's going to keep putting people in danger because of that, I don't think he should be around. And maybe that is what the episode was going for. Maybe it did a bad job of conveying that because he has been a character for so much longer than Magnus. But I didn't get that vibe. I think if that's what they were going for, they didn't pull it off as well as they had hoped that they would. Though, the rest of the stuff in this episode is pretty frickin' lit. Seeing Starscream trying to train and tame the Predacon at the beginning is absolutely hysterical. He, after he almost gets killed by it a couple times, puts on the Apex armor. Luckily, for him, just in time for the Predacon to puny god him a little bit, which was absolutely hysterical. The Predacon's detest for Starscream is the funniest thing in this show since Starscream. But because of this, when he goes with the Predacon to this mine to retrieve the fossil that was found there, bumping into the Autobots and infiltrating their ship, in the meantime, he's wearing the Apex armor, but because he brought some of his guys with him, and they start picking at him for wearing the armor to protect himself from his, as he puts it, pet Predacon, to show that he's not a coward, even though he is, he takes the armor off, which is hilarious, because realizing the Predacon's here, Magnus has said they need backup, and he's not wrong. So, even though he's not happy that Miko's there, the others have insisted that she is a wrecker in her own right, and can be of help. So showing that he's a good leader who gives people a chance, he has her climb through a hole in the top of this cave to run to the ship and contact Optimus. So she's up there. And like, yeah, Starscream is taunting her and stuff because he's Starscream. He sucks like that. But she is competent enough that she's able to get to the Apex armor that he has set down nearby and activate it herself, just in time to puny god Starscream for a little while. And it's absolutely spectacular. This is a really good fight scene, considering that one of these characters involved doesn't have like any onboard weapons. Because seeing Miko using the Apex armor's size and defensive capabilities to enhance her fighting style, it's clear that Miko in the Apex armor is the Miko that Miko has always felt like she is. She has truly achieved her final form. And in the end, after the others get back out of the cave, the Predacon, having flown off back to the Nemesis with the latest Predacon fossil, because it's starting to remember its past, or at least the past of the thing it was cloned from, and so it has its own interest in Shockwave's cloning more of its kind, which we'll see the result of that later. It flies off, leaving Starscream to retreat as the others emerge from the cave. Miko gets to stand there with the other wreckers in one of the coolest shots of the entire series if you're someone who likes Miko. And I am. It was such a strong moment for her, punctuated by Wheeljack leaving. But again, I don't feel bad about that. Bulkhead does, and that's fine. Wheeljack is his friend. But even Bulkhead seems to understand that Wheeljack is in the wrong here, which is why I think that may be what the episode's going for. But I still think we're supposed to feel bad that he's leaving. And I just don't. Maybe we're supposed to think, oh, it sucks that he couldn't gel with Ultra Magnus and learn to be more cautious. Maybe that's the tragedy we're supposed to see in this. But like, I just don't care that much about Wheeljack. I don't care enough about Wheeljack as a character because he has disappointed me with his actions so many times in past episodes at this point, despite how cool he is, to really feel that. I don't know, I just felt like for all the cool in this episode, that was just like the one weakness of it, that Wheeljack just isn't important enough to me as a character for me to feel any weight from his departure. Overall, though, this episode was pretty good. It sucks that the Decepticons ended up with another Predacon fossil, but anybody who knows anything about the structure of a Transformers show knows where this is going, that it's going to give us a bunch of Predacon minions for the dragon, which is going to turn out to be Predaking. So, it's actually arguably a good thing that they got it, because it means more toys for me to buy later, and more characters in the show for people to fight, or whatever. A greater variety of cool-looking characters is always a good thing in a show like this. But, like, narratively, that sucks. But it's super cool that they got the Apex armor, and we see how effectively it can be used by a human here, which means I'm sure they're going to use this now in subsequent episodes to give, like, at least one kid per episode something to do. Right? Right? But anyway, yeah, I feel like this didn't land everything it was trying for, but overall this was a really good, funny episode. And I liked it a lot. I especially liked the Miko stuff, in case you couldn't tell. But I am somebody who likes Miko, so that is to be expected. That said, though, guys, what do you think of Transformers Prime Chain of Command if you have seen it? Let's get discussion going in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, share it with anyone else who you think would enjoy my content, subscribe if you haven't. You can also check out links to my various social medias, as well as the many ways you can help out the channel. Those will be in the video description, but either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.